Hello, and welcome to The Whole Being. My name is Ego, and I am your host. I'm here. I'm finally doing this. Full disclosure, I have recorded almost 3 takes of this intro episode, and I just now decided that this is the one. This is the one that will go up. So I apologize in advance because I think you are about to hear the roughest first episode of a podcast that you have ever listened to, but it'll be good. I have a good feeling about it. If you're seeing or listening to me for the first time, let me do a quick introduction. Like I said, my name is Ego, and I started out as a content creator in 2018. That's 5 years ago. Wow. Yeah, 5 years ago as a fashion blogger. And I started sharing DIY fashion and home decor content with a bit of lifestyle. And now for the past year and a half, I think I've kind of pivoted into more wellness and lifestyle and life advice, motivational content. And that took off and, became a thing on its own unexpectedly for me. But I finally feel like I found something that is at the intersection of what really matters the most to me, which I've kind of put together to be helping someone else, especially young women like myself or people younger, not feel as lost in the world as I felt, especially as a growing adult in our current world or in any world. I have to, assume that being an adult has always been a hard thing. Trying to figure out who exactly you're supposed to be in the world or how you want to position yourself in the world. That, I think, across all different time periods must have been difficult. So in the wake of that, I decided to make a more not formal, a more structured format type of content that I can actually set a clock to. And that has been my favorite thing about podcasts. Podcasts are a more intimate, more raw format for having conversations without the 1 minute social media limit. But yeah, that's how we got here. That's how I got here. Why I chose to do this, the Whole Being podcast. And I don't even want to tell you how much I procrastinated choosing the name for this podcast months. It's like, it is something that I'm really ashamed of. Like, I took so long to choose the name. I went through like variations of names, but eventually I just, I decided to pick one and stick with it. And we're here. And I don't know if you can tell, but I am very nervous right now, but more excited nervous and not like dreadful nervous, because this is something that I've been called to do. I felt called to do for a while now. And I just was somewhere between this, the space of like, is this really the thing for me? I still kind of don't like my voice or listen to my voice. And I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, but I just kept fighting it, even though I knew deep down that this was something that I really was supposed to do, at least at this point in time. But I made it here and I am grateful for that. And I just want to say that it is still a little unbelievable to me that the lessons that I learned or the things that I realized and I discount as like basic or simple, but I later realized that they are huge words of wisdom, that those things are considered life-changing to someone else. And so I've kind of gotten to the point where I am no longer egotistical to think that the gifts that I am given and the messages that I receive are solely meant for me, meant for my benefit, because most of the time when I share them, it is really impactful to someone else. And I think it would be selfish of me to let my own fear or lack of courage be the thing that keeps me from bonding with someone else or helping someone else or reaching out to someone else and having them reach back out to me. Especially since I myself have benefited from other people stepping out of their comfort zone to share their wisdom with me. That I've come to learn is the whole point of this, is why we're in community with each other to begin with. So this is me stepping out of my comfort zone. This is me contributing to the huge community that I want to build and I find myself in, right? I don't want to hold myself back from something as simple as just participating in humanness and thereby depriving myself and depriving someone else of partnership and of growth and of bonding. And, I can go on that tangent, but yeah. Because I guess at the end of the day, you come to realize that we're not meant to do life alone. And too many of us stumble through situations where even knowing that you're not alone, even when there's no solution, just knowing that you're not alone in it, that someone else understands you, someone else sees you, someone else knows why something is so scary to you. Just knowing that you're not alone in that makes all the difference in the world. And I hope that we can cultivate that kind of community here with each other, which brings me to my next point. What is the basis of this? What is the purpose of this? What do I want to achieve by doing this? So I very recently turned 30, and I want to say 3 months at the time I'm recording this. I'm 3 months away from turning 31. So I am now properly in my 30s. And the one thing that I've learned a lot of things so far in the past decade, but the one thing that I've learned for sure is that none of us are born knowing what we're doing. And that was kind of hard for me to learn, because I think part of my struggle when I was in my 20s was assuming that there were things that I was supposed to know and being upset with myself for not doing better or not knowing better or for not reacting better. But the older you get, the more you get to really know people older than you, or people who have walked the paths before you. The more you get to know yourself, the more you really realize that nobody is born knowing what they're doing. And some people figure things out faster than others. But life itself is a series of you feeling lost and not being lost, and then being lost again and not being lost and not being lost and being lost, and kind of going through, they're not cycles, but going through different phases in life, right? So accepting that, it's a huge lesson. So even when you're lost, you're not necessarily lost, right? I think that you have just forgotten who you are. We are born knowing. We are born whole. And along the way, a lot of things are poured into us. Your caregivers pour into you. The schools you go to, your friends, your peers, people pour all sorts of things into you. A lot of that is good. For some people, a lot of that is really traumatic. But for most of us, there's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad. There are lots of things mixed in there. There's a lot of noise covering who we actually are. So over time, you learn that that is kind of what life does to us. So I don't necessarily subscribe to the idea that like we're born broken and you're supposed to go about fixing yourself. There are people who have gone through things, I don't want to discount that make them broken. Life can sometimes feel that way, but I'm talking about like the whole being. When it comes to discovering who you are and trying to figure out how you want to place yourself in the world, how you want to position yourself in the world, appear in the world, you know, the question to what's my life purpose? What am I supposed to do here? I truly think that most of us are born whole. We're born knowing who we are. The lifelong process is filtering out all the noise and discovering who you really are underneath, not the person, the avatar that you have crafted yourself to be and that you kind of put yourself, that you kind of put forward into the world, but the actual person, the real you is there. I truly believe that that is the starting point. And my hope is that these weekly reflections on why we feel, think, act the way we do will help bring you closer to the beautiful being that you already are. Finding who that person is and accepting who that person is, because that is another thing. Finding out who you are and accepting who you are sometimes can be two different things. Bridging that gap can be tough, right? Because when you spend so much time presenting a certain version of you into the world and then you discover that that is not who you really are, bridging that gap can be difficult because it has to do with a lot of identity shifting. It has to do with a lot of like redefining yourself, not just to yourself, but also to the people who have now gotten used to this old version of you. So yeah, that is what this podcast is going to be about. But I just want to add a quick caveat, a very, very important point, which is that you should keep in mind that I am 30 years old, which I think is really young, but it's relatively older, young enough that I don't know everything, of course, and I don't have all the answers, but old enough that I think, I'm helpful to someone. If I could go back and be a big sister to a younger version of me, I would really have appreciated every ounce of help that I could have gotten. So the whole being, what can you expect? You can expect the episodes to be anywhere between 5 to 20 minutes for now. Yeah, I can be long-winded, but 5 to 20 minutes on Sunday evenings. So something to help you or help us prep for the week ahead. It will be just me for now, and maybe we'll have guests in the future, but I don't know. We'll have to do this for a while and see how that goes. Overall, I am very excited, and I think I've said that already. I also want to say that the very existence of this podcast is proof that I, and by extension you, are capable of anything that you're mind sets out to do, that your mind can conjure up, regardless of what you think your capabilities are, your fears and your presumed inadequacies, regardless of how shy you think you are, how, all the flaws that you think you have, you are capable of not putting those things aside, but working through those things to get to the other side of whatever it is that you want to do. I am proof of that. Okay, I'm doing it right now as I'm talking to you. And I owe you a huge thank you for tuning in. I think this will be fun. If anything at all, we will learn something along the way. So once again, welcome, welcome, welcome. And if you're listening to this, the first episode is already out, so you can listen to that as well as soon as you're done with this one. And I will end this by saying something that I learned hard, like it really sunk in the process of creating this podcast, which is that you do not have to be perfect to be good. You do not have to be perfect to be good. You do not have to be perfect to be good. Okay? Have an amazing week, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Bye.